Okay, so hello and welcome to an Xperience fireside chat. My name is Kristina King. I'm the marketing director here at Xperience, and I am delighted to be joined by Bryan from TD Synnex. So TD Synnex are one of our key partners and a leading IT distributor across the UK and Ireland. But before we dive in, Bryan, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role at TD Synnex?
Hi, I'm Bryan Roberts. I've been with TD Synnex 26 years now, and I've worked my way up from an admin person right away to a product specialist and solution specialist. And my main focus at the moment is the Windows 10 end of support and being a bit of an evangelist, really.
Okay, perfect. That's quite the tenure. It's quite the tenure under your belt there. Well, the Windows 10 is exactly why we're here today, because we are approaching a major milestone. So thank you so much for giving up your time and joining me. So Windows 10 end of support is coming up here in October, so not far away. So if you're still running Windows 10, then this is for you. We're going to be deep diving into what it means for your business, why now is the right time to act, and how we can help you overcome the common challenges that we're hearing now on a daily basis from our customers. So why don't we start with the big picture then, Bryan? Windows 10 support officially ends on the 14th of October this year. What are the key risks then that businesses face if they don't upgrade by that date?
Well, I think a lot of customers are confused of actually what the end of support is. A lot of people think it's just a case at Microsoft, if there's a problem with your device, they're not going to help you. What it actually means is that security updates won't be provided, leaving your customers open to risk of being hacked, having their data stolen, and also potentially having applications that won't work in future.
Okay, so that's a really important point for us to lean into. So it's really all about security and compliance then. It's not just about the latest features, it's actually about protecting your business.
It, it is. I mean, 60% of small businesses go bust after a data breach, which is really a really interesting fact. Um, we only really hear about the big hacks, the likes of Marks and Spencers or the Co-op, when they happen, because they're in a position that they can be a bit more resilient. They've got a bit of money behind them. So when a data breach happens or a hack happens and their systems are compromised, they're able to bounce back a little bit. Smaller businesses don't really have those funds to be able to do that. And it's not just a risk to their data, it's a confidence in their business where if they had a data breach, customers may not feel comfortable giving them information. And having Windows 11 devices in their environment helps reduce that attack surface for hackers.
I mean, 60% of small businesses not bouncing back from that is actually quite a scary figure. And you're absolutely right. We hear about the big brands because that's naturally the media space that they own. But the small businesses rely so much more on that confidence because they need that relationship with their customers and they don't have that back. And um, so from your perspective then, do you feel that SMBs at the moment right now are prepared for this deadline? Is in the majority, are they ready for October?
In the majority, yes, but maybe not feeling the urgency as much. So a lot
Okay.
of customers are aware of the end of support and maybe believe that they can kick the can down the road slightly, make it a little easier for by doing it a bit later, but they may not be fully aware of the security risks, but also they might not be aware that as their hardware gets older and support stops happening, that applications that they think will just continue to work will not be supported by the manufacturer. The big example for that for me is customers on Office 365 products. When Windows 10 goes end of support, if you have a problem with Office 365 products installed on a Windows 10 device, Microsoft will be advising you from a support point of view that it's an unsupported configuration and they won't be able to fix any problems.
Okay. And that's probably quite scary for a lot of businesses if they find themselves in that position. Um, so if people are delaying then or thinking, do you know what, I'm gonna push this off. If we think about delaying before we get into the actual challenges as to why they maybe won't make the decision or delaying the actual decision to upgrade, what is the risk of leaving it last minute?
So we've mentioned the security risk, which for me is one of the big ones. We've also mentioned the app compatibility risks, so support on other applications within an environment not working. And then the other risk is the cost of doing your upgrade may increase. So if you take into account that hardware is being shipped as quickly as it physically can by manufacturers, but as products go into constraint, prices will go up as demand goes up. So the cost of buying a new PC or a laptop, there's a potential that that price could go up as well.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, really, isn't it? Demand increases, price naturally increases, ability to fulfill decreases, and you find yourself in a really difficult position. You mentioned budget there. That is definitely one of the challenges that we are hearing coming from our customer base. And it's something that we're working really hard with our customers to facilitate for. But how do you see customers, overcoming that big upfront cost? Is there anything that you think that they should be taking into consideration?
Yeah, there's a couple of steps that customers can take, and one of them actually has a twofold benefit, not only saving your customer a little bit of money, but also plays into a bit of an environmental role, which is looking to trade in old devices. Quite often, some of these devices still have residual value on them, and and they can be bought in and resold on. We have a service that we offer, and we can pass on to companies like yourself,
Yeah,
where we bring in devices and they are checked for their quality to make sure that they fit the criteria of the forms that have been sent out and the estimated value. We then send them to a secure place to have all the information completely cleared and refurbished so that they can go back out into the market as cheaper devices for certain regions. And that also has an opportunity to recycle devices out to the channel. The other thing is, if a device isn't really worth all that much and it can't go back into the channel, we have a recycling solution. So we do all the environmental recycling side. We recover as many materials as we possibly can. And we can even provide a report to your company that you can share with your customer to say,
that's brilliant.
we've recovered X amount of material, we have saved X amount of water for your company, that they could then put into their social and environmental practices, that they can say, we recycled some of our old devices and we've made these savings and we've made this environmental savings as well.
Yes, so there's lots of options that can be done. I mean, I know ourselves we're working on deferred payment plans in general, financing options. So I think it's definitely something that customers need to speak to their providers or their IT partners about, and have that conversation, because ultimately, yes, there's costs associated, we know that, but there could be much more wider costs when we think about the risk that they're actually potentially exposing their business to. And we kind of touched on that earlier. Something you also touched on earlier was applications and legacy applications that, our organizations are potentially still using. We have come across that as a challenge with some of our customer base, where they believe they are currently on legacy platform that wouldn't be appropriate for upgrade to Windows 11. So what's your kind of insights around that? Is that something you're seeing as well? And when customers perceive themselves to be stuck, are they really? And if they are, what can we do to protect their environment a little bit more? What's your views on that?
It's certainly an issue that customers do make us aware of. They do feel that some of the applications that they've got are a little bit bespoke or don't work in Windows 11. But Microsoft is so confident with applications working. They say 99.7% of applications out there will work on Windows 11. If you're running it on Windows 10 already, you'll probably find that it will run on Windows 11. There are ways that they can be tested. So if you look for the Microsoft App Assurance Program, that there's some tools in there that allow customers to check to see if their applications work on there. But Microsoft, the first time ever I've, in my 26 years of looking after Microsoft, is Microsoft are offering a free of charge service for those applications that don't work. So if they don't work, what they will do is work with your end users and the company that created the software, and they will get it to work. A prime example for this was they worked with Intel at the beginning of the announcement for end of support. There was 180,000 devices across the Intel company. They had 5,000 applications. Of those 5,000 applications, there was 35 applications that didn't work. Microsoft's App Assure program worked with the teams, and they were only able to fix 34. 1 out of 35 failed. And the only reason that failed was because they couldn't get the original engineer in contact to make the changes, which I think is
Wow.
quite impressive. Out of 5,000 applications, one application not working after a time being fixed by Microsoft is pretty impressive.
It is impressive, and for me, looking at it, it probably paints the picture that actually there's probably a lot more fear around it than there is in terms of tangible evidence. I mean, we know ourselves there's implementation programs that we can trial. You can ring fence devices with applications on it. You can put a testing methodology in play to ensure that ultimately the upgrade process is successful. And the fact that then Microsoft are willing to support in that is incredible. So potentially then the concept of legacy software and not being able to make that move feels a little bit more of a myth than a reality.
In a lot of cases, yes. But we may find that there's one or two applications out there, but it's generally
It's
not the
rare.
case. It is rare. There are steps that customers can take if they want to continue to use these legacy applications. They don't want to go down the App Assure route. There are programs available. So coming in September is the extended security updates. So these are updates from Microsoft for corporate customers. They will pay $61 in the first year, $122 in the second year, and $244 in the third year. If you try to add the ESU, the extended security update, in the second year, you are still expected to pay the initial year. So for 2 years cover, it's roughly $165, $185 for 2 years worth of cover. Once you've added on the third year, you're getting close to the point where you could buy a new device and take those steps and be already on Windows 11. The other option is that customers could look to do virtualized desktops for those applications that they have a few users for and they want to run in an environment. They could move those into a virtual desktop environment and manage them through there. But again, this adds an additional layer of cost, and actually it's probably a lot more expensive than extended security updates or getting the application upgraded to a
Okay.
version that works on Windows 11. So there are options, but they all come at a cost.
Yes, absolutely. And extended security updates. This is a new message that we now have as an option. But would I'm assuming you would agree that that is not actually the solution to those who are making the decision at this point that they don't want to upgrade. That is not the route we would recommend people going down. It's a sticky plaster approach. It's not an end goal. So what would you say to customers then who feel right now that what, we don't want to upgrade, we're going to set it out for now?
So my suggestion would be is to really look at what devices you've got around the business and prepare yourself. If you don't want to do the whole business, maybe pick key areas of your business. You may want to do your high risk areas, or you may want to focus on areas where they've got the most sensitive information. So maybe your HR department and finance department, where payments and personal information are held. You may want to focus on those initially. You may then go out to your sales teams and other people around the business slowly. I really wouldn't recommend ESU for more than a year. It would be a great way to extend your time on Windows 10, but really wouldn't recommend going beyond a year because you're just kicking the can down the road, and it's more of a snowball effect. It will start off small, and by the time you've gone through and paid for multiple years of extended security updates and then purchased your new devices to replace those aging hardware that you've got that just can't be upgraded, you've paid almost double the amount you would have done already. So it's worth trying to get those devices in while you can.
Perfect. I mean, I think it's clear from this that, making the move to Windows 11, it's not just a features and benefits upgrade here. It is very much a strategic business decision that organizations need to be looked at from a security, a compliance, and, ultimately future-proofing their organization. Um, if you had to wrap it up in, one sentence and final piece of advice for everybody, what would you say in regards to the impending end of life deadline?
I would say don't wait. I think too many people are holding off to see what offers become available. Take advantage of the vendors while you can. Reach out for them for deals, because as we get closer to that October date, it's going to be more difficult for us to get deals and offers from the manufacturers. I would also say that this is an opportunity to make your IT teams' lives a bit easier. Intel saw about an 80% reduction in tickets being raised because they moved from
Wow.
Windows 10 to Windows 11. So imagine what workloads you could give your IT manager if he's not spending all his time updating passwords or dealing with aging machines or trying to fix Windows 10 problems. They could be out there doing other projects, bringing new systems online, and being prepared to bring your business into the future.
Perfect. Well, listen, Bryan, thank you so much for joining me. And as I said before, for giving us your insights and making your time available. We really appreciate it. For our anyone who is watching this, if you are unsure about your upgrade path, or you want to explore your options, whatever challenge you're currently facing within your business, reach out to your Xperience account manager. We will do our best to overcome those. We like to be tested, so bring us your challenges, and our goal is ultimately to make this transition to Windows 11 as smooth, secure, and cost effective as possible.